Welcome back to the Grow Like a Mother podcast. I'm your host, Jill, time management strategist, author, and award-winning speaker, and advocate for all things growth in motherhood. And growth is what we're talking about today. But before we get into the episode, a quick reminder, if you're listening, you can also catch us on YouTube and you can actually watch this conversation that I'm having with my friend Nishma in action. Nishma Bharadia is a mindset coach and educator who empowers fierce female professionals and parents to create lives of abundance through confidence building and self-trust. With 13 years of experience in education and a BA in psychology, she combines her practical tools with deep insights to guide women into rediscovering their inner strength, reclaiming their power, and reconnecting with their truest selves. Her mission is to help others redefine success, embrace challenges, and build lives that are aligned, fulfilling, and authentically their own. And she happens to be my friend for, God, 25 years now,
Yeah.
probably. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you, Jill. So kind. I'm so excited to be here. I'm very honored. Thank
It's
you.
it's a wild ride how
Yeah.
we have sort of come full circle through everything. We've got some pretty similar experiences as well in terms of like our motherhood journeys and some of the rough parts of that early piece. But now you're a coach. You are a
Mhm.
coach. You are out in the wild coaching women. And I want to talk about it. I want to understand from your perspective of someone who is like newly made this big shift, what that feels like. And like, I want to get into all the things. So what does it feel like? Let's start there. How are you feeling?
All the feels. I'm
Yeah.
feeling all the feels. I'm feeling proud, terrified, all the things. So it's a big fun mixture of, I think it's like akin to motherhood too, right? You don't know all the answers. You don't know what you're doing all the time. So I feel like entrepreneurship and creating this journey has been similar in that way, where it's figuring out your footing as you go and what feels right. So yeah, that's where I am right now.
Yeah. And you came from the teaching world.
Mhm.
After university, you were in the teaching world for a long time and you moved with your family to a new city and
Mhm.
decided that you were going to go for this coaching thing. And what was the catalyst for that? Like, what made you decide, okay, I'm going to go out on my own. I'm going to help these women that I see who are ambitious and powerful and not stepping into their truest potential. And I'm going to be the one to help them and make that big shift away from that sort of safe career path that you had been on.
Yeah, that's a big one. So in hindsight, I realized it was actually years in the making. There were little, as we say, whispers that kept happening, and then they just got louder and louder. So from like 2018, there were a lot of personal things that were happening to me, and then it compounded with COVID, and I had a miscarriage, and all these things just showed how precious life is and how time is so limited that I kept asking myself powerful questions like, well, what is it that I want to do? What do I want? And what kind of legacy do I want to leave? What do I want to do with my time? So as I started asking those questions, I gained more clarity. And through that clarity, I started to take little action. And as I started to take small actions, I built more self-trust and confidence. And then it led to the big, bold decisions like moving cities and everyone starting at new schools and our new house and then I decided as I leaned into what do I really want, I realized that often I'd been in a coaching role without being a coach. I was also like working with women and my colleagues or friends that are powerful and fierce, and we were all kind of facing the same things. And then through asking these questions and giving guidance and support, they'd often come to the same place I was, like through clarity and self-trust. We'd start to make changes and shifts. And so I was like, oh, and it's something my mom had done too. And it just everything kind of started like domino effect falling into place. And I said, well, why don't I lean into this? And I looked into courses, signed myself up, went back to school. And then, yeah, started my coaching business. Yeah, but I would say it was a long time coming, but also now that we're here, it feels like boom, boom, boom.
Right. Yeah. It feels
Yeah.
real all of a sudden, right? Like life smacks you. You're like, I'm here. I'm doing the thing.
I did the thing that I was planning to do for so many years. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's a big part of it too, is that even though we want to make a change, it might take some time and some planning for sure. And I think that's a good way to do it because then your
Totally.
mindset can catch up with the action.
Yeah. And you always been interested in like growth and mindset and personal development? Like I was a nerd all through high school and university with this kind of stuff. And I'm always curious to know, like, it's more mainstream now, but were
Yes.
you into it then? Is this something that's recently come as an interest that catapulted you?
I think it's been a kind of a scaffolding because in university, my first degree was in psychology, so obsessed, and I wanted to be a psychologist at first, and then that shifted into child development, which shifted into teaching. So that kind of again all dominoed, and then I think with that knowledge, and then being in school and learning about psychology and development of children to youth to teenagers, it also like all kind of coincides into adulthood as well. So that whole growth journey and mindset, especially like we talk a lot about growth mindset with children. And as through teaching, it's very important to have because as they face challenges, you'll see the students who have growth mindset versus fixed mindset, and you'll see the success rates and their confidence and that difference. So I think I've always been very, definitely a nerd about it and read a lot about it and learned a lot about it. And I've done like, I have my qualifications in guidance and counseling. And I think human development and our psychology and the sociology behind it, all these things fascinate me. And yes, I've always wanted to be a helper. So I kind of amalgamated all the things together. And then, yeah, it led to coaching, which I did. Like you said, it was kind of like, didn't know it existed
Right.
10, 15 years ago, but so glad that
Yeah.
it, because it fully aligns. It's what I wanted.
Yeah. All those pieces come together so beautifully.
Mhm.
Do you know your Enneagram number?
No,
Okay.
no, I would be very curious.
I would bet that you are the same as me. And that is a number two, and that is like the helper role, right? So yeah, you should definitely check that out. It's like a personality test you can take online. Some of them are really accurate and some of them not as much, but yeah, it's so interesting to see once you start diving into this world and you understand all these different pieces as you're speaking with people and interacting with them, you're so much more able to understand and pick
Mhm.
out and understand how to best serve the person you're interacting with, whether it's the kids at school, the kids in our family, our friend group, our clients. Um, so when you were talking about the kids at school who, you can see the differences when they have this growth mindset. For the listeners who are unfamiliar, can you break down what is a growth mindset and what is a fixed mindset for us so we're all on the same page?
Absolutely. So a fixed mindset is more judgmental. It's the I can't, I never, I won't. So, for example, both with students and professionals and adults, we say, for example, you were applying for a promotion and then you didn't get it. And a fixed mindset would say, well, like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? Like, you ask very judgmental questions and there's no growth. You're very stagnant. Whereas a growth mindset would think, I wonder what I could have done differently. What can I learn from this situation, right? We're looking for opportunities and ways to expand and grow and get curious as opposed to going inward and shaming ourselves. We're going outwards and seeing where we can grow and where we can move and what we can learn from the situation. And that often leads to more success because you're asking the bigger questions rather than shutting down.
Yeah. Resilience building,
Yes,
right?
100%.
Are people born with one or the other?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's like nature versus nurture kind of thing, whereas it's the environment you grow up in. And then when you go to school, if you experience, which what I used to do is that when you see growth mindset happening in action, or it's modeled for you, or you're having big conversations with big questions that make you really be insightful and inquire as opposed to look at it from only your one point of view, then yeah, I think that there's room for growth. So I think that you may have a tendency towards one or the other, but there's always an ability to shift
Mhm.
your mindset for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Always, right? I feel like that's the whole point of this little game of life is to grow
Mhm.
and to learn and to better ourselves. And I feel so I feel so sad sometimes when I see people who I know are in a really fixed mindset, and you
Yeah.
can just see, right? And they don't
Yeah.
believe that there's any they don't believe in change, I guess, and that they can make change or things could change. And
Mhm.
then you see people who are really living their life, moving through life, expecting that there is positive change, that there is growth to be had. And what a difference in not not only the kids, but just friend group, my family, like to be able to really peg. Once you know, you can start to peg people, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to know how you're teaching your kids this growth mindset, because they're about the same age as mine, the
Mhm.
littles. And it's something that with your education background, you were teaching like in the community of children in schools. But what does it look like in the home? Like if we're listening to this podcast, thinking this is a really wonderful tool to have this mindset, how do we instill it in our kids? Does it first have to start with us? Or can we sort of tackle this willy nilly with some
Mhm.
tools? You know what I mean?
Yes, I think it's a mix of both. I think, for example, when they're, and again, it's a lot of times the opportunity will come up when they're faced with challenges, right? It's how do we manage adversity, right? What you said with resilience. So if there's a big mess or a big mistake, we don't shift right to blame or, oh my gosh, why did you do this? What happened here? It's more so, okay, how can we solve this problem? Let's think of solutions, right? So we're looking for the opportunity to solve the problem rather than point to blame.
Mm.
So yeah, a lot of times it's like, okay, well, we made this mess, that happened. How can we solve the problem? And then we'll brainstorm and excellent, great solution. And then there's independence, and then there's confidence building because you solved that problem on your own. Great job. And I love the way that you thought of such and such solution or multiple solutions. And then we've got teamwork because we're working together, hopefully, when we can. Right. So yeah, I think that there's so many opportunities in the home where we kind of have to like let them make mistakes and then say, oops, how can we solve that?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And it's just making me think too, like, as we're recording this, it's the first week back to school,
Yes.
and little Logan is very not wanting to go to school
Mhm.
and having a super hard time at drop off. And I'm wondering if I can use this strategy of like, well, how can we make this better? How can we grow into liking school or tolerating school or like whatever the
Mhm.
case is, and having these conversations with him and getting his buy-in and getting him to realize that things can get better and all that. So we can use this in so many different facets, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, one of my favorite strategies now you're thinking of it is like the rose, the bud, and the thorn. So after school, we have a conversation. Rose is something amazing, wonderful, beautiful, brand new that happened at school. The thorn is like a difficult part of our day, and the bud is something
Oh,
new that we didn't learn before, we didn't know about before, something brand new.
God.
And that often not only just like how's your day at school, it can shift the conversation and kind of expand the conversation as opposed to like good. When we talk about our rose and our thorn and our bud, it changes and they come back from school excited to tell me about the rose, the thorn, and the buds, right? Mama, can I tell you my rose today? I was like, yes, please. I would like to know. That was so my daughter had a really hard time last year, shifting into because we moved, going into grade one. So that was a big one that helped quite a bit
Mm.
as we transitioned. So,
I feel like we can use that for grown-ups too.
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. All of the stuff that we use for children is absolutely applicable for adults.
Right. I love that. And I'm curious to know, like, when your clients are coming to you with these, like, what are the situations that they're struggling with that we can use some of these tools? I guess my first question, I tend to ask loaded questions, so we'll break it down. The first
I love
question
it.
is, what are the things that you're seeing in our group, in our community of women who are needing some support? What are they needing support with? And then following up that, like, what are some tools that we can give them? Like, less specifically, because we're obviously not talking about one person in particular, but what are you seeing in like trends of people who are looking for support in the coaching world?
Good question. Yeah, I think a lot of it is similar to what we've experienced. A lot of people either in the corporate world or in a typical or, type of job where we've felt like we've all kind of checked off, we've talked about this, checked off all the to-dos on your list, and you kind of like get to this point where like, okay, well now what? I did the school, I got the job, I got the house, I did all the things on the list, but I don't feel fulfilled. Something feels like it's missing. Or specifically in career, people are like, okay, well, I did the traditional career, but I'm not, again, not happy or fulfilled. It's not my, people are more curious about their purpose and their passion. And that's what I'm seeing more in like our group of women in our generation. And then in the parenting side, a lot of trying to find balance because there is so much happening all the time. And we are constantly overwhelmed. And you know this because you work with time management. And so it's a lot of parents and moms being overwhelmed, stretched out, trying to find support, that village, right? So it's a lot of questions about well, it's often starts out with blame, like, why can't I have it figured out? Can't someone else seems to have their stuff sorted? Why not me? And then we flip that into a growth mindset. Who can I ask or where can I find support? And then looking into those opportunities. And then the moms often find more time to self-reflect and give themselves more time by delegating either at work or at home or a combination or whatever it is. So I've seen a lot of that. And then I think, like you said, the tools often come from the individual conversations. But one of my favorites, because I will tout it because it's one of my favorites, and it's just so simple. All you need is either paper and pen or your phone. But I love journaling. I think writing for me has always been cathartic. It's something that's helped me with postpartum depression and anxiety. It helped me through after my miscarriage, like moving through grief. It's helped me to figure out what I wanted to do. That's what gave me clarity, is either free writes where I just got little word vomit everything onto the page, or through powerful questions where there's prompts, and then through asking those hard questions and kind of working through it over time, that gave me more clarity as to what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that with my career. So like, what type of job, what is the ideal job? What does it look like? So I had to list all the qualities of what I wanted in my ideal job. And then lo and behold, I was like, when I came to coaching, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, I get to work with powerful women. I get to uplift others. I get to use my teaching experience. I get to work one-on-one. I get to build relationships, all the things, boom, 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 boom. I was like, this is it, right? So I think that it's such an underrated and simple tool that, yeah, that's probably one of my favorites.
I love that. Yeah. And like you said, like it all, once we have clarity about what it is we're after, what we want it to feel like, what we want it to look like, what we want it to be like, then when it comes, we're like, oh, I recognize you. You're my dream. Yes, I'll say yes to you. Whereas if we're just moving through life, kind of unclear, we know we want something to change, but we're not really sure what, then when these opportunities
Mhm.
come, that could be exactly what we wanted and needed, we're less likely to jump on them because we don't recognize them.
Mhm.
So that's a powerful thing. You're first of all a phenomenal writer. You are,
Thanks.
yes. If for anyone who doesn't know, she is a beautiful poetry writer and does all kinds of amazing things with pen and paper. But I like writing. Obviously, I'm a writer, but I could never get into journaling. And so what I did was I switched it into something that works really well for me. So for whoever's listening, if journaling is something you want to do but struggle with, I do verbaling instead of journaling. So I literally just talk out loud every single day. Yeah. So I use this practice, and I'm actually teaching about it this month in the village. I'm really excited, but it's like 20 minutes in the car after I drop the kids off. I do my manifesting. I do my affirmations. I talk things out in my mind about what I want to like accomplish or how I'm feeling or different struggles. And I just literally talk out loud to myself in the car,
Yeah.
because for me, it's the speaking part that's powerful. And I'm already in the car. So it takes no extra time. So I love that too. But yeah, journaling is something that the more and more I hear about it, the more and more I realize what a powerful tool it is, because it's that intentional time looking inward,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, no, and I love that. I love verbaling too. That's great too. And then it's kind of what I love about journaling is you can always go back to what you've written and look
Right.
back on it. But with verbalizing, if you just like voice note and record yourself, you can always come back to your recording in the same way. Whatever works for you, totally. I love that. That's a good one.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm always trying to find a hack that actually works for me for all these things I really want to do. And then,
Mhm.
um, I'd rather do it in a bit of a truncated way rather than not do it at all. I was having a conversation this morning with a client talking about how we sometimes as women will feel like if we can't accomplish the task from start to finish to the acceptable degree of whatever standard we do apply for ourselves, then we just won't do it.
Yeah.
And it's really I think causing a lot of stress and overwhelm on top of our already busy lives, right? Because we could do things in small pieces, and that's what I think coaching is really helpful for, because you've got someone there to sort of remind you, oh
Mhm.
yeah, okay, I don't have to have it all perfect in the beginning. Oh yeah, maybe I could just try this one little piece, and the next time I meet with my coach, okay, yes, we can see if that worked or not, or how we can tweak it. And having that, it's like,
Mhm.
I think of coaches as when you're bowling and they've got those like bumpers.
Little, yeah, yep.
Yes. That's how I view coaches. And I think they're so fantastic. I think they're
I
so
love
neat.
that analogy. That's a really good one. I like that. Yeah, totally. And I think it helps with accountability. And it's so true what you said. Like often the first thing we drop when we're feeling overwhelmed is something for ourselves,
Yeah.
something that was meant for us that could have helped us with our growth, right? So coaches helping you to get manageable bite-sized actions is, yeah, the overwhelm seems smaller. You're like, oh, I could do that. I can do this week.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's absolutely what we do. We will get you to your goal, but in manageable bite size baby steps.
Right. And
Yes.
so you've got two programs available right now. You've got the 3 month and the 6 month. Can you tell
Yes.
me, like, what does that look like? If I'm listening and I'm like, okay, it's time for me to get a coach. I know it is. I'm resonating with Nishma. What does it look like to work with you?
So, like we said, a very individualized process, but it would be for 3 months. If the 3 month program is 50-minute calls and biweekly. And then throughout that, we work on specific tools that work for you, whether it's journaling, whether it's tools that I also have in my toolbox, worksheets, or through powerful questions, whatever works for you. And we plan it out. So the whole beginning is our whole kickoff call, and that's where we kind of map out our journey, right? So we map out first, and then the one-to-one actual coaching, those 50 minutes, is our kind of like the guidance, our GPS.
Yeah.
That's me, I'm your GPS. And then we are working towards that goal. So we've mapped out the route to our destination, to the goal. Then second part is we are working together one-on-one. I'll also give you support on the side through email. And then when we arrive at our destination at the end of the 3 months, what you'll realize is through that whole process, through the guidance, you actually met several milestones, and you've created, it's like transformed confidence and growth in that time. So you technically met a lot of goals while getting to the big goal, right? So 3 months is kind of like the short-term version of that, whereas 6 months is like, okay, we're in it for the long haul. This is a big thing that we are planning out. It's like something that we did where you're like leaving a career and you want to make kind of like an exit strategy and where do you want to go, and we're kind of moving you from here to there. It's a little bit of a longer journey, right? The longer car ride. But that also will have a little more extra support on the side, where so it's not just email support, but it's also Voxer, which is like we can just kind of like message back and forth for any emergency, like, oh my gosh, we need to talk about this situation right now. But yeah, I think, and that's all my favorite part of coaching is it's forward focused. So we're getting you to where you need to go, however you need to get there. But also along the way, there's going to be so much transformation. And I think especially with the 6 months, you'll look back and see like, I don't need, that's what the change is wild,
Mhm.
just how much can happen in 6 months. And then, yes, down the line, I'd like to start group coaching. So that's in the future. And that's another option to, if you prefer to work in a group with other folks and make community connections, which is also really special, and you know about this too. So yeah, that's another option that's coming down the pipeline.
That's
So
so exciting. Yes, I love that. And I especially love if you go, like when we first start this journey, we get to map things out. So, like, as the client, I understand what's coming. We're really clear on the goals, like that clarity piece, right? And then we break it down into those smaller steps, right? And
mhm.
I'm just imagining myself coming, like, sometimes, I don't know if anyone else feels like this. Maybe it's just me, but often if I'm feeling something, it's not just me and somebody else is too. So I'll verbalize it. But sometimes in the past and still now, I'll feel like I need some support, but I don't really know what it is for. Like, I don't know what I want. I don't know the goal yet. I'm not transitioning out of a job. I'm not leaving a relationship. I'm not having kids. There's no big catalyst, but I just feel like I need some support. And so I feel like this first meeting, like the first thing you do is such a valuable tool to be able to sort of figure it out, to be able to verbalize, like, okay, I want some change. I don't know what that looks like. And then psychologist Nishma comes and helps me figure out everything in my brain. And then coach Nishma helps me figure out how to do it all and
Yeah,
supports me.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. Like our kickoff call is the untangling, right? So we're all in our heads, and a lot of times coaching is huge in helping you step outside of that and, like you said, gain clarity. So it's literally everything in your brain like this. You're like you said, I don't know what I want. I know something needs to change, but I'm not sure what it is. And then we'll bit by bit, string by string, untangle everything until you're like, oh, yes. Got it. That's the thing. This is the thing. I want that. I want that to change, or I want to move towards this, and that's the goal. Yes. And the excitement that comes, that's probably one of my favorite, is the aha moments when people are like, yeah, oh my gosh, yes. And then when you reiterate it back to themselves, and like, hearing it back is
Mm.
wild. They are always like, oh my God, yes. When you said it to me, and it's their words. It's not even my words. It's you came to the conclusion. You found this within yourself. You have the answers. And then they hear it and they're like, oh my gosh.
Like a bell
It's
ringing,
amazing.
the reverberation, you're like, oh, this is it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Bell ringing. I love it. Yeah, that's exactly it.
So I'm just realizing that I am very, very much at the end of our time today. But how can people work with you? How can people find you online? Like, what's the next step after listening to this?
Absolutely. So I am on Instagram. I'm fairly active over there at Nishma.Bharadia. And then you can also, my website will have been launched by the time this airs. So that's very exciting. So you'll find me on my website, www.nishmabharadia.com. So easy. And then you can email me anytime with questions. I'm always open to a chat and connecting. I do clarity calls. So if you're not sure about working with a coach, we can always have a quick little chat, and there's no pressure in the conversation. Never have to make a decision, just some clarity.
Yeah. And honestly, guys, a lot of people will say that and then they use that as a sales call to try to pressure you. But Nishma is Nishma and she's the most wonderful soul. And so you can trust her when she says there's no pressure. She is here to help you decide if this is right for you.
Absolutely.
Um, Man, this is so cool. I want you guys, if you're listening, to go find Nishma and I on Instagram and on LinkedIn, tag us, send us a note, let us know that you heard about her. And if there was something that resonated with you, we'd love to hear about that. I always love to know what landed and what piece of information stood out to you the most. So thank you, my friend, for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me, and I'm so excited for our future.
Yes.
Lots of things coming up on the,
There are some cool collabs coming down the pipes. Very
yeah,
excited, especially if you're in the Ottawa area like we are. Yes, but we will keep that a secret for now. And I will leave you guys for the week. So until next week, keep on growing like a mother.